Dear sisters, dear Dhamma friends, this is the time allocated for our Dhamma talk, the last Dhamma talk. To ask a consent, everyone may say 3 times sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhasse. Atti bhikkhave asava dassana pahatabba. Atti bhikkhave asava samvara pahatabba. Atti bhikkhave asava patisevana pahatabba. Atti bhikkhave asava divasana pahatabba. Atti bhikkhave asava parivajjana pahatabba. Atti bhikkhave asana vinodana pahatabba. Atti bhikkhave asava bhavana pahatabbati. Dear Dhamma friends, based upon this jhana grow meditation retreat, we have undergone now almost 10 days of a residential retreat. Today is the last day accordingly. Alternative days, we used to deliver a talk in English medium, both for the Sinhalese as well as the English medium talks. We took one common subject or one common topic, that is a discourse given by the Omniscient One, known as Sabbasava Sutta in a shortened form, but it is Sabbasava Samvara Pariyaya Sutta, that you may find in the canonical teaching, the Sutta Pitaka, in the Majjhima Nikaya as the discourse number 2. And they are the Omniscient One, the Awakened One, wanted to draw the attention of the audience to the basic or minimum type of defilements, that is called asava in Pali, and translated into English as stains or cankers or influxes, sometimes as outfluxes also, so influencing, affluencing, that kind of terms are being used, that indicate the suspending part of the iceberg. What is tip of the iceberg we can consider as the other forms of defilements, namely the obsessional form and the transgressional form, and this is underlying one. And tendencies, the taints, the influxes, they are very difficult to understand in this linear method of analyzing or rationalizing or deductive knowledge or inferential knowledge. But even without that also you can't reach that. Therefore you must have to have some kind of inferential knowledge, deductive knowledge or book knowledge or theory knowledge. And on top of that you must have the proper approach, or sometimes in a gross way we consider it as the meditation or bhavana in Pali, or your direct touch. So in this case also, the Buddha is going to draw the attention to these underlying tendencies, the most hidden part. So therefore he invites to have both the theory and the practical knowledge in a vigilant form, so that one can hit the target. And in that sense, he says to restrain or to abandon, or in a sense to master the stains and the influxes, or the influxes. One has to see it, one must has to know it, then only it is becoming a possibility, otherwise it is a rather impossibility. So clearly you can see in the Western psychoanalysis and the Eastern psychoanalysis. Analytically, the West also understood there is such a thing called as id, or some kind of a persona, which is unaffected by the time, and it is hidden, and it has a kind of a decisive and controlling capacity upon which only the ego and other things are working. Even though they manage to understand it, there is no hope, there is no methodology possible or probable, even suggested to tackle it, or to abandon it, or to restrain it. So therefore, that kind of analysis is helping us to understand it in the analytical framework. Theoretically you can reach it, but the radical way, the extraordinary way the Buddha presented is, he is not just stop at the analytical level. He says you have to see it, you have to know it, and then he came out with quite a radical 7 methods to tackle it, to abandon it, to restrict it. So that is the subject, that is the main theme we were dealing throughout this retreat. And so far we have taken time to understand what are the kinds of things that we have to abandon or restrain by seeing or by observing, and what are the type by restraining of faculties, and we slightly touch about how to abandon another layer by using or by applying, and that will be the starting point for the today's talk. And as the time permits, we will try to go through the kind of things that you have to abandon by enduring, the adivasana, and avoiding, parivajjana, and removing, vinodana, and the last, the developing or cultivating by bhavana. To touch with this restraining of faculties by using, it is simply the attention of the Buddha. He drew to the usage of 4 basic needs. So whenever someone is going to live in a decent life, he or she has to have clothing, foods, dwelling, and medicine. These 4 are known as the 4 requisites even for the monks. So monks has to completely depend upon their own devotees and generous people for their robes, for their pindapata, and for their dwelling, the meditating huts, as well as for the medicine. So among the monks' life, or in the monastic code, these 4 are very famous, and among the traditional Buddhists also, because they make offerings with respect to the robes, with respect to the foods, with respect to the dwellings, and with respect to the medicine. So therefore, one must not misunderstand this teaching is only valid for the monks, and it is possible to discuss under the monastic atmosphere. It is equally applicable to the day-to-day life in the householders, laity, the clothings, foods, dwellings, and the medicine. And according to the development which has been enumerated by the Western criterion, they are very concerned about these 4 basic needs, and they have developed some criterion to measure how much that person or that society or that city or that country developed in terms of its clothing, foods, dwelling, and the medicine. And these criterion, and accordingly they categorize the new world, the developing world, the third world countries. It is according to these 4 requisites. And based upon this kind of analysis, the West came out with a lot of improvements according to the Western criterion, based upon the technological development, scientific development, information technology and the infrastructure. And for the last almost 200 years, there have been a number of advancements towards these achievements. But now, many world leaders and the top class scientists, they come to know we are now flattening off of that improvements and the developments, now facing to an uncertain drop. Even the infrastructure is developing, even the science, of course science is for the last 200 years, only at the beginning they have a new thing, now it is only meddling with the already discovered thing, and information technology developing, but all the criterion suggested by the West, as well as the social qualities, specifically the contentment and the cultural values, they are in a downfall. And the West also now quite open, vigilant to see what is the way and what is the missing point, whereby we overshoot the target, and what is the equilibrium. And so they talking about the sustaining economy, intermediate technology, small is beautiful, that kind of thing become very popular. But the Buddha, without any kind of that long formulas or any intellectual kind of, just mere intellectual kind of interpretations, he 2600 years before discovered these things. Without these basic needs, you have a special kind of sufferings. So that is why he refused the self-mortification. One must not indulge in the self-mortification as to go below the basic needs of the clothing, food, dwelling and the medicine. But even in the Indian society, there were this kind of the gratification of sensuous pleasure, and they went into the other extreme. So the humanity, the human culture and the civilization is always oscillating in between these two extremes. And now one of the Westerners, they come to know, now we are in the third wave, and that pendulum has gone for the third time to the hitting to the so-called development, and it is now on the way back. And the turning point is, we are rather in the high time. And this abandoning by usage is very, very important, not on the Buddhist perspective, not from the transcendental point of view, but even the economic point of view. What is the Buddha suggested was, Santutto hoti itaritra chivarete, itaritra chivara santutthyacha vannavadi, nacha chivara hoti anesanang appati rupam apajjati, aladdhaja chivarang naparitasati, laddhaja chivarang agatito, amuchito, anajhapanno, adinavadasavi, Nissarana panyo paribunjati. It is simply, as the category of clothing are concerned, it is related to the robes of the monks, but definitely we can generalize to the clothing of the laity. Santutto hoti itaritra chivarena. You must try to be contented with whatever available clothings. And not only that, you must praise and you must encourage others to be happy with whatever available. So that is the basic theme the Buddha presented. And you can understand monks being kind of people living upon what is being offered, it has a special meaning. You must be happy with whatever the devotees offered, and not only that, you must preach, you must profess, you must encourage others to be contented with whatever the robes you have. And then, aladdacha chivaranna paritasati. If you do not get your preference or whatever you dreamed of, and you must not regret upon that. Laddacha chivarang, agatito, amuchito, anajhapanno, adinavadasavi, nissarana paribujjati. If it happened to get a real kind of a robe that you wish and you dreamed for, even then, don't get elated, don't get attached to it. Understand the utility value of this robe. It has been very nicely depicted by the Buddha, and use it for this practical value and no beyond that. So this is the simple economic formula as far as the robes are concerned. And whenever you become skillful in to be contented with whatever the clothing you have, and whenever you are praising the idea of the contentment and not to regret about what is not received and not to get elated and develop conceit about what is the best you get. And whenever you develop it, you have to understand it's a kind of a skill. It is possible if you are well instructed. But yet, here, there's a chance for the taints to arise. There's a chance for the influxes to come in. The influence of this training. That is, whenever you come to know, now I am more moderate, I am more contented, I am not worrying about what is not I get, and I am happy with what I am getting. And with that, there may be a chance for you to develop conceit. I am better off. The other people, they are luxurious, or they are self-modification. Whatever the teaching they have, they don't understand it. Therefore, they are asking for troubles. In that sense, I am better off. I am superior. They are inferior. They are with full of defilements. I am not with full of defilement. Like, there's a conceit can happen. With that, if you are going to measure others with one-upmanship, that is the kind of taint Buddha is alarming us. It is happening whenever you become success. So, the patisevana pahatava, that is by usage, you must not be skillful to be contented with what is available, but you must not develop any kind of that upmanship. Or you must not develop, I am the person with the correct view, I am the person better off, even with the little bit of or medium type of clothing, and you attach to it, and this is the way the attachment, the egoistic and the conceit and the views can happen. And present day, even in the West, you can understand how the Sir Baden-Powell, when he is introducing this Girl Guide and the Boy Scouts, he very nicely introduced these things, how to be contented and go to the forest, do a jamboree and learn improvisation and learn impromptu adjustments and to be contented. And when you see the first and foremost instructions or constitutional advices the Baden-Powell laid down is, be prepared. That is the first and foremost thing. It is not with a lot of clothing, but be prepared in the mind. Even the cold climate, mind is warm enough, so you can face it. Even the climate is too hot, the peace of mind is there to cope up with. And you are not making a point, I won't get enough clothes, warm clothes or cooling mechanism, but you know, if it is so, a lot of things can come. So you must know how to find the middle path, the least frictional path, and then the understanding things as they are happening in a indirect way. And if you are interested in, and if you wish to develop along this line, you have to really study the particular sutta known as Aryavansa Sutta. That is, you may find in the Gradual Sayings, book number 4. It's a very short one, and the Buddha very nicely he explained, so to say, he recollecting back, the commentator says, he managed to see 12 lakhs 2,12,024 Buddhas backward. And whenever he see all the 5,24,024 Buddhas back, he see each and every Buddha managed to keep it up to this principle and teaching that. And their robes are exactly the same. And you see, whenever monk done with the full robe, how beautiful it is. How nice to see. And if you see the robe, it is nothing but a square piece of clothes. It's done in such a way, it is not wearing and tearing much. And that is the best. And Buddha says, this will not be complicated or distorted by this crafty mind or anything. Whoever going to do adjustment and the amendment to the robe will be get adjusted. Not the robe, because it is the long historical tradition maintained. So lay people also try to find the medium path regarding the clothing. Exactly the same formula for the foods and the dwellings. But in the Aryavansa Sutta, I would like to stress, if you are managed to keep up with the middle part regarding the clothes, foods and the dwellings, there's a special connection to the meditation. He says in the meditation, the first and foremost fetter to the samsaric journey is the desire. There is a well-established and it is a well-known fact. But Buddha at a time depicted 10 armies of Mara, the evil one. The second one is Arati. Arati means that you don't know how to select the priority. Our crafty mind, whenever the meditation keeps going on with full-fledged, it always tries to come out with inferior kind of suggestions and say, what about instead of this, doing this? Always coming and proposing the inferior thing whenever the mind is well adjusted in arrowhead formation. The particular person, if he is untrained, uninstructed, he finds the inferior combination is more friendly, appear like more appropriate, so therefore he used to abandon what is most efficient and priority, instead of resort back to the inferior one, feel it is healthy, feel it is thinking from my side, it is giving a chance for my liking and disliking, it is giving a chance for my personality and all the kind of thing. Ultimately, you give up the priority, the first and foremost efficient combination, and resort back to the inferior one. This is called Arati. Opposite of is Rati. Bhavana Rati means you get the priority for the meditation and set up your timetable. Set up your likings and dislikings. Set up your personality. But when your Arati come into being, you feel that instead of you have to give the economic criterion, political criterion, social criterion, and be with the society, understand the society, socialization, all the kind of thing ultimately undermining. And that is specifically, if I am to look the Buddhism from the Sri Lankan point of view, that is the main feature where we miss the bus. Having the all opportunities, not we are appreciating what is the priority, instead we are so crafty and so-called intelligent, rational, to justify the inferior one. That is because you don't know how to behave, how to use these four requisites. Whenever you come to understand the proper understanding and proper usage of the four requisites, and you will be ever in the forefront in your meditation, you will understand priority as priority. And that is what we call the management technique. Present-day world is completely lost in the managements. To manage, you have to understand what is the priority and what is the secondary thing. And you being the leader, you must take care of the priority. Others will follow the suit. But instead, giving up the priority, and if you are going to meddle with the inferior thing, everything collapses. Everything go in the wrong direction. That is really pointed out in this Aryavansa Sutta. It says if you are managed to keep up with these 3-4 requisites, wherever you go, there won't be any challenge for you. You understand what is the first thing first. And everything will follow the suit. So therefore, if you do not know, you are the very person misuse these facilities and mess up with and miss the bus. So therefore, a lot of things can come in. Ultimately, you attribute due to the lack of knowledge, due to a lack of understanding and seeing and understanding. So more and more you learn the teaching, practice it, you see the momentum develops. So keeping that at that level, I would like to go to the next one. How to abandon these stains by endurance. That is a number of dimensions. Buddha has tried to explain what does it mean by endurance. For the time being, we can say when we are dealing even in a retreat or in our day-to-day life or in our schools or in the office or whatever may be the society we are in, how much you are restrained in your verbal and physical deeds, you are bound to listen harsh words. You are bound to face harsh situation regarding the bodily activities. When this happens, if you are going to just see even fairly proper decisions, that means you will easily go in towards the world and try to make the world just, worldly justice, rather than minding your own business. So therefore, in such a situation, the Buddha said the shortest cut is just endure it, because these are just mere events, simple events in the life, and may be attributable to your past karma, if you understand the karma and karma results theory, or your some mistaken you have done in this very life or something, or climatic changes, or whatever may be. So therefore, instead of enduring, if you are going to seek the justice, you have to understand that a huge amount of influxes, taints going to happen. And the bad thing is, all the taints and all the influxes and all the undermining things, you think it is due to the external world. That is why I got agitated, because they are the people using the harsh words. They are the people using the harsh kind of activity. They are the people coughing. They are the people slamming the doors. And that is, I am disturbed. It is justifiable for me to disturb. Like, you justify yourself without knowing the amount of defilements, the amount of influxes happening. So one day, if you are to see this kind of taints, this special trait of taints, when you are enduring, and if you manage to endure, all the distracting people, all the people going to give the harsh words, all the people going to give the harsh treatment, you will go and thank them. Because they are the real teachers. They are the real one giving you the full exercise, the challenge. And they are not only that, they measure you how much you have developed the mindfulness, how much you have developed the endurance, how much you have developed the skillful way of using your attention. If your mindfulness is very low, if your endurance is very low, if your wise reflection and the radical reflection is very low, all the distractions will agitate you. Whenever you become putting up your threshold value regarding this, your immunity, your endurance, majority will cut off. Still you may be little irritated for the medium kind of distractions. And that will be your exercise then. And taking that also as exercise or challenge, if you still increase your immunity, your endurance, you will understand here and there, of course, there may be some irritating words and harsh kind of activities, but they are, you take it as your exercise and go ahead, and slowly you can understand, instead of making the world covered with hide or something like, it's better you to wear shoes, so then you can easily walk everywhere. Otherwise what you are going to do is find the external justice, external evenness, external culture, external gentleness, and more you to expect that your internal things will go in ruin and it will be eradicated, eroded, so ultimately you will be more and more vulnerable. And therefore, whenever you are faced with this kind of harsh words and the deeds, this is a very good opportunity you to see how much you have developed your immunity, how much you have developed your endurance. And Venerable Mahasi Sayadaw, when he says, writing this book, it's a very big treatise, and he explained insight knowledges one by one in the most meticulous way. I think that is the best book if you are interested in. And he says each and every insight knowledge will come pivoted to unknown suffering. So whenever you are facing an unknown suffering, that is a very good sign you are going to hit a very good insight knowledge. Whenever that harshness, physical or verbal, if you are going to evade, if you are going to escape, that you are merely escaping a forthcoming insight knowledge. That is how you understand the truth of suffering. The Buddha says, truth of suffering you have to understand in totality. Of course, at the beginning you are very tender, your endurance is very low, your immunity is very low, that is well understood. That is why we bring it to the meditation hall and ask you to close your eyes. Try to give as much as possible the silence. And give the maximum conducive condition to start with the mindfulness and the concentration. And slowly, of course, thanks to the coughing people, inside the meditation also you have exercise. And when you go out, you see coughing is not a problem. Because you are already used to do with the open eyes. And I think Suduachi also have no problem regarding the coughing. Because she has not hearing, she has no hearing capacity. Whenever people, those who have good hearing capacity, this is a problem. Because you think it is the outsiders are the people irritating you. But I am still maintaining for the beginner, the conducive conditions are must. In agriculture, at the nursery level, we have to give the conducive condition for the sprouting seeds. And once it comes up to a certain level, only we transfer into the main field. Over there also, there's a kind of a stress happen. And then only the plant understand how to adapt into the direct sun, direct rain and all the atmosphere. So when that happens, the adivasana, the endurance is a very good measuring capacity, and don't expect anything from the outside. That expectation is the one make you vulnerable, otherwise so much of influxes can come. And in this world, don't expect the most conducive condition. I mean theoretical maximum. Never. This world is full of suffering. Of course, we can have nice places like Jhana Grove, but even they don't have that kind of a theoretical maximum, but you have to cope up with, and otherwise, there's a kind of taints going to disturb you, and you will be committed into that. Ultimately, so much of mental agitation is going to happen. So therefore, endurance is a very good exercise, came from the Eastern religious trainings, but in the West, it is very little being taught, and nowadays they are giving a huge emphasis on how to deal with this kind of harsh situation. Whenever the East and West going to develop this good communication, good rapport, I think both the parties has to learn a lot from each other. And then next one, how to, next category of taints, how to abandon that category of taints by avoiding. That's also kind of a selection you have to do, and at the beginning you don't know. And as and when the mindfulness and the concentration come in, as and when you are to listen to the deep and profound Dhamma, learning and studying and discussing, as and when you are to expose to a noble and wise friends, you will get a better opportunity and better choice. And their choicelessness awareness, you have to meddle with, you have to adjust it. And you have to have a choice whereby to abandon which is unprofitable, which is unagreeable. Whenever the chance happens, without much of a confusion, you must try to understand how to avoid. Basically, there are also a number of examples the Buddha gave out of his compassion, but to make the long thing short, we can say how to avoid bad friends. Papamitta in the Buddhist jargon. And whenever the Buddha explained about the auspicious points in the Mangala Sutta, start with Aseva Nacha Balana. First and foremost auspicious thing is not to associate these wrong friends or evil friends. And this is quite a crucial thing when you are raising children, when you are dealing with your disciples, and when you are giving instructions to your patients by the doctors, and when the kings are ruling the countries. And it's very important how to avoid it, otherwise unknown suffering. Unknown suffering. But the other one is, if you are going to declare war with the evil friends and going to get rid of in a harsh manner, that is also asking for trouble. So you must know how to withdraw. The best way is to have wise friends. Asevanata Bharanam Panditanancha Sevanam. The having a good wise friend or friends is the easiest way to get rid of this unwise kind of people. And more you develop, I would say, mindfulness, it is a law of nature that you will be exposed to more and more good, wise friends. Nothing to pray, nothing to expect. More and more you will be mindful, naturally you will get. But not in dozens, not in hundreds. Where rarely only you will get it, and then you know, and you must know how to adhere to him, how to be with him, and that is what the wise reflection. And there you have to have a choice. Because if you are not really employing it, implementing it, you are the one to get this friction. So therefore, at the Buddha, of course, it says avoiding the mad dogs, avoiding the mad elephants, mad horse, mad cows, and all the kind of thing. But at last he says, this is amounting to getting rid of the bad, unwise friends. So, at a time, one day, Venerable Ananda was getting a little relief out of his old daily chorus. He was sitting in the shadow of the monastery and had a meditation, and he had a very nice, good, concentrated session. And then he felt how lucky I am to be acquainted with the Buddha. Otherwise, how can I get this kind of immaterial pleasure? Even though he is coming from the well-to-do family, he came to know it's a bliss, it's a contentment. And then he specifically go and lay down his sitting cloth, pay respect to the Buddha 3 times and says, "Oh Venerable Bhante, I think 50% of my success, of my spiritual life, this celibate life, is due to the association of good friends," without telling you are the one. Then Buddha says, "Oh, shut up. It is not 50%, it is 100%. the way he presented this understanding and selecting of the good friends. But definitely you will come out and say, this world is very difficult to get a good friend, very rare. That is because of your cussedness, because of your unfriendliness to yourself. That is why I am telling, mind your business. When you become friendly to you, when you become mindful, the good friends are naturally coming to you. So therefore, if you wish to have a good friend, be a friend to yourself. Be friendly with yourself. Have a loving kindness. Have a well-being to yourself. And don't expect it from the loved objects. This is not the object loving. You have to be subject. If you don't appreciate your being a humanity, a human person, and appreciate that your organs are intact, and appreciation, if you don't appreciate this Buddhist dispensation, during that time you get this chance, and you have the chance to listen and associate the good places and good Dhamma, and you have a chance to sit and meditate, and you have at least some role models, and that is the best. With that, if you are really making use and make yourself friend to yourself, ultimately that open-eye is one of the quality in the Dhamma. It says it is leading you from grossness to the subtlety, from the uncultured people to cultured people, and there your selection, or rather avoidance, is a radical reflection. It's a wide reflection. And there also, if you are going to say, I am going to maintain the choiceless awareness, that you have to understand these things are tools. These things are not the Nibbana. So it is up to you to make use in the productive way, in the wise way. So therefore, avoidance is a must. Even at the social level, and even in the meditation level, at a time you may understand, your mind will come up to in the very micro level and the subtle level, the primary object also there, thoughts are also there, background sounds also there, some bodily pains also there. So there, if you do not know how to give the priority and select, or to neglect about these inner thoughts, or bearable pains, or background sounds, you will never proceed. You will never get the arrowhead formation. You will never cut through the jungle. So therefore the avoidance, that is why in the last part of this sutta, the meditation means you must understand, it is called Viveka Nisita, Viraga Nisita, Niroga Nisita, Patinisaggan Pasi. Patinisagga means you must select this is the leading part, this is the frictional part. So avoiding the friction, you must select the least friction part. And the selection of the least friction and the avoiding of the friction is both treated in the one term, Patinisaggan Pasi. Parichaga Pakkhandana. Parichaga means give up. Pakkhandana means plunge into. It's the same thing. In the scene, in your meditation given thought moment, in your stream of consciousness, at the area you find thoughts. At one part you find sounds. They are not addressing you. And there are some pains or feelings to say that you are living, not dead, not unconscious. And in a certain area you find a signal for your primary object. Under such circumstances, if you are not going to take refuge of the primary object at the cost of the others, that is the point that you lose, you become inefficient, and defilements can come in, asavas can come in. So you must employ and select the primary object at the cost of others. Therefore you find with leaps and bounds, meditation will jump forward, even in the social level. And then vinodana. The last one is by removing. That is, the Buddha basically say, in the Eight Noble Path, the first and foremost thing is the samadhi, the correct view. Second thing is sammasankappa, good ideas or correct ideas or intentions or broad intentions. There he says, the wrong ideas or bad intention versus the correct intentions. The bad thing is kama chanda or kama vitakka, vyapada vitakka, vihinsa vitakka. The thoughts regarding the sensuous gratification, thoughts regarding the ill will and the malice to the other people. These are three always roaming in the untrained mind. Instead, you must develop nekkhamma vitakka, that is renunciation, that is the antidote to this kama vitakka, the sensuous gratification. And as far as the ill will is concerned, you have to develop the loving kindness. Otherwise, naturally mind is going to this ill will. And bad to the others or inflicting suffering to the others, also part and parcel of our untrained mind. For that you have to develop the compassion. So these are the three things you have to develop in order to get rid of it. Otherwise, mind habitually, the influxes, the taints are always flowing, influxing and influencing the stream of consciousness with this kama vitakka, vyapada vitakka, vihinsa vitakka. Sensuous gratification, ill will and inflicting suffering for the others. It is at the root, you may find the worldly knowledge being nothing but vyapada vitakka, vihinsa vitakka. The whole knowledges came out of this ill will as well as from the inflicting suffering to the others. That is because you are not happy now. So therefore, you have a hate to the existing situation. That is why you are searching something new. You are searching something refined. So that is how the inquiring mind comes into being. And you keep on finding scientific and all the kind of thing in order to get rid of the existing suffering. So much so, the ill will and the inflicting suffering to the you and the others is happening. So therefore there's a connection between the knowledge and this ill will. And the how to inflict suffering to the others. The opposite is the loving kindness and the compassion. So loving kindness and the compassion is always considered as something religious and something spiritual. So you must have at your fingertips, at your discretion, whenever the ill will happen. It is kind of a irritation, it's a wear and tear, it's a heat. So you have to have a balm, you have to have a lubricant, sineha, known as mindful, loving kindness, apply little. Whenever the machine is running without oil, it's a wear and tear is too much and heaty and bad for the machine. But if you lubricate it, the machine will develop a kind of a harmonious, smooth run. Exactly the way the loving kindness is a lubricant called sineha, you have to have. In Sri Lanka, our mode of transport was basically the bullock carts. And you can understand the bullock cart is such a thing, running in this rugged road, all the ways cracky sound and all the kind. Therefore, all the bullock carts carry some castor oil. They can have always, whenever they make creaky sounds, they apply little to the axle and it reduces. Likewise, you have to have little castor oil whenever you go, if you are going to go develop kind of a ill will. That is what the Buddha presented as mindful, the loving kindness. So, in order, by using, by employing, by keeping the touch with this renunciation, the loving kindness and the compassion, you can get rid of, you can do away with this sensuous pleasure or sexual pleasure or sensuous gratification and the ill will as well as the tendency to inflict suffering to the others. That is called vihinsa. Avihinsa is the Pali term that has been translated as the compassion. So these are the early 6 types. If you are not skillful in using them, you are knowingly or unknowingly nourishing, knowingly or unknowingly fertilizing the influxes. When the influxes come into being, you never recognize them as malice. You never recognize them as something distracting you. They appear like very friendly. They are appearing in a disguised manner, in a vanchanika way and perversions. Once they manifest up to the obsessional level, only you can see its malice. Once it is transgressed, it's done, already finished. So the Buddha says, by controlling only the transgressional form and the obsessional form is just like cutting the vegetation and the stem of the tree. As far as the root is intact, it is bound to shoot again and again. So therefore, if you dig into the roots, take it up, burn it and throw the ash into the gushing air, then there won't be any chance. So this kind of drying off all this sap coming from the root, that is what we call asava. The last method the Buddha mentioned is, depicting is the abandonment of the things by developing. That is what we call bhavana. So in the bhavana, it has given a stock phase. The Buddha says, Parisankaya yoniso sati sambojjhankam bhaveti viveka nisitang viraga nisitang nirodha nisitang patinissagan passi. For monks, the person who is taking this exercise of abandoning of defilements or the taints by meditation, he develops mindfulness as a factor of enlightenment, sati sambojjhanga, in a wise way. That means now, earlier the mindfulness helped to develop the wise reflection. Now wise reflection come and help promote or reinforce or galvanize the mindfulness. That is a very radical, it's a very kind of a abnormal way, reciprocal way. So, developing the mindfulness up to the level of becoming a factor of enlightenment, definitely for the last few days I think we discussed enough. We gave the priority to be mindful. So now we have to understand how to develop the radical reflection, the yoniso manasikara towards the mindfulness. The first and foremost technique Buddha mentioned is viveka nisita. In a free way and in a relaxed way, you have to develop this mindfulness as a factor of enlightenment. What does it mean by developing the mindfulness in a relaxed way? Develop the mindfulness as a day-to-day thing. Develop the mindfulness to be your second nature. That means you have to so much season it, familiarize it. Whenever you are going to familiarize the mindfulness, not only in sitting, but in walking, and these are day-to-day activities, not only the monastic atmosphere, even at the household, even at the office and kind of thing, you have to undergo a rising part of the mindfulness as well as the cessation part of the mindfulness. So definitely you will be happy to understand, whenever we are facing with unforeseen things, how to start the mindfulness from nothingness to mindfulness, and then how to develop up to its peak. For my understanding, you have enough now. Your present experience and the present knowledge is more than enough how to start the mindfulness with respect to the unmindful situation. And how to bring it up to the certain level, I think it is appreciable. Now, how to cope up with when the mindfulness is disappearing, when the mindfulness is ceasing, when the mindfulness is scattering off, that is the part what we call meditation. That is the part what we call serious part of the meditation. Not the beginning of the mindfulness, in the middle, how to cope up with the end of the mindfulness. Then only you will be free, you will be relaxed. Then only the mindfulness will become your second nature. I would like to go a little deep into that, hoping that you have a fair understanding about how to initiate mindfulness, how to improve it. And now what I am going to expand to analyze is how to cope up with its cessation, how to cope up with its scattering of mindfulness, how to cope up with its dissolution. And even then, what must be our approach? What does it mean by the radical reflection at the face of this scattering? The Buddha says, specifically in the Itivuttaka Pali, Dve me bhikkhave samma sambuddhas tathagato samma sambuddhasa devasana paryayana bhavanti. O monks, the awakened one, fully enlightened one, give the Dhamma in double-fold way to you. What is that? Papam papato passata ayam patama dhamma desana, papam papato disva tassa nibbindata virajyata vimucchata ayam dutiya dhamma desana. O monks, first see evil as evil. That is the first stage. Second, after seeing the evil as evil, you must try to do whatever necessary. So it appears like there's nothing much special over there, because the observing the evil is the first and foremost. But it indicates you have to have a pause. You have to have a patience. You have to have a forbearance observing the evil as evil. Not to get moved, not to get agitated, not to develop anxiety, not to be face-to-face it. Not to face-to-face it, yes, but to move by and to get excited. The anxiety, that is the crux of the teaching regarding the meditation. For example, when you are tamed with your mindfulness, with the primary object, face-to-face with the primary object, you manage to keep the object for a few minutes, sometimes few seconds, face-to-face it, and then some may say, it is distracted by a thought or sound or pain. So whenever the sound or thought or pain, whatever means the secondary object distracted, in the midst of your distraction, the wandering mind, you come to know, you are supposed to be with the in-breath and out-breath, for example, but now what happens? Now you are with the full of bad feelings, or distracted by sounds, or distracted by thoughts. So whenever that happens, you are not, according to your own judgment, not mindful. Immediately what happens is, maybe due to the moral shame and the moral fear, mindfulness sets in and come back to the primary object, and then you feel, now you recovered. You can come back to the primary object. But if the distraction is too much or too powerful, you will be taken for a ride. You will be distracted. And there you have no chance. You will be going thought to thought. It becomes the train thoughts or chain thoughts. And then you can understand the content of the thoughts, whether it is related with the desire or hatred or ignorance, whatever may be. But if you manage to see, when you are distracted by thought, I am in a thought, immediately without seeing the content of the thoughts, without recognizing the essence, you immediately come back to the primary object. Under such circumstances, the early part of your meditation was with the primary object, with the mindfulness, middle is with the thought, without mindfulness, and the last one also with the mindfulness, with the primary object. So the master says, his teacher says, if that is the case, you have been distracted but naturally now you are back in the primary object, mindfulness restored, and if that is the case, please recognize that thought has not done any mistake or any damage to you. It's of course little wastage of time. So therefore nothing to worry. Don't think that you are distracted by a thought. Don't develop anxiety. Don't curse yourself. Don't discourage. Don't underestimate your mindfulness. And if you still cut that situation into two, from the in-breath and out-breath, or from the mindfulness to go into the unmindful state, due to the thought is one half of the phenomena. And soon you come up understanding that and coming back to the primary object is second half of the phenomena. The Buddha says the first half, where you midst of the thoughts and you see evil as evil. The thought is not what you are to promote, but it is happening. And there you can pause and understand. This is something not to get excited, not to get discouraged. This is a kind of mindfulness that is understanding unmindfulness. So far you try to understand the mindfulness with the primary object. With the mindfulness, whenever the mindfulness is intact, you are happy. Now you the first time, if you can pause and see, you first time understand the mindfulness, unmindfulness under the light of mindfulness. That is what we call the radical reflection. That is what we call against the grain. And there, without rushing, viveka nisita, leisurely, let the mind to come back to the primary object, and you will be that will be the most happy moment, glad moment, to understand, because mindfulness is taking care about everything, it come back home. It's a reason to be glad. So if you do not develop mindfulness as your second nature, if you do not develop the mindfulness as a freely way, you never analyze this way. Always you will regret telling, my mind is always going outwardly with the thoughts, with the sounds, with the pain. And even if you come back, you come with disheartened, discharged and discouraged motion. That is not Dhamma. That is Kilesa. That is Asava. That is pains. That is canker. That is influx. So you have to see it. You have to understand it. At this moment you may understanding in the theoretical basis, but those who have little explore into that may have some more deductive knowledges. The moment you experience it, you are experiencing the Nibbana. This is the glimpse of Nibbana. This is the momentary Nibbana. The moment you understand it is for consecutive thought moments, you are slowly coming home, back at home. That is your original house. That is what Buddha wanted you to introduce. Each time you lose mindfulness, you get a chance to recover it, but you are always regretting for the distraction of your mind. You never appreciated the mindfulness which is corrected yourself and brought back to the primary object. And that pace, giving the total definition for the Nibbana. You understand evil as evil, and then you have enough chances to rectify it. And the rectification, mind you, it is not you, it is happening. That is Dhamma. You can't claim that you bring back the attention to the primary way. It is happening. So this is the bliss of Dhamma. This is the gist of Dhamma. So moment you experience it, one day, you will thank the thoughts, because thoughts are the only thing gave you the chance to implement it. Distracting sounds are the only thing giving you the chance to develop mindfulness in the freely way. Develop mindfulness in the, to make the mindfulness your second nature. It has to happen not in sitting, not in walking, in the day-to-day activities. One thing is very sure, it is happening always as an accident. It is quite electric. It is giving so much of confidence, and you would have done it 1,001 times, but end up with the discouragement. So whenever you develop the radical reflection, going against the grain kind of attention, enough distractions are there. I have traveled to many of the meditation centers. Not a single center is free of distractions. Oh, then now only you are going to understand how to make use of this distraction, how to recycle them and prepare a good compost. You know, whatever the dirt, muck, household thing, put under the sun, that's the best way to make compost. All the defilements put under the light of mindfulness, you will get the best nourishment of the Dhamma. That is what the meditation means. So if you are supposed to ask what I am going to bring back home, this is the answer. You will be the same person, distractions are happening, but you are not distracted, you understand the mechanism of distraction. Early part is very discouraging and disheartening and self-critical, anxiety, fault-finding, all the kind of thing. But if you manage to see at the peak, or while it is happening, evil as evil, then you get a chance to see how nicely the mindfulness bring back to the primary object, and you are the one to be happy, to be glad. That is what we call bhavana. That's cultivation, that developing. Because you already have now. It is nothing new. Only thing is putting it in the correct perspective. So therefore, understanding the unmindfulness is the best in your mindfulness. Therefore, when Sariputta says, this is the power of mindfulness. Pamadena kampatiti sati balang. Whenever the negligent happens, I mean you are off the track, but you are unmoved. Sometimes in the general English it says, main thing is not to worry. In order to be main thing not to worry, at the beginning you have a history of worrying, but now only you cut through and then understand, make you this worry, see evil as evil, and it's a hard core of meditation. But it is not only limited to the mindfulness. Of course, with the way the Buddha give the advices and analyze and the way, you can ponder into it with your theory knowledge and the theoretical knowledge, with the deductive knowledge, and ultimately with the experience. Definitely it is invited, and that is the what we call the noble quest. It's the highest benevolent thing you can do for yourself, and it is not only understanding your mind, you understand the human mind. Therefore it is not a selfish thing. Whatever the thing you do and you get healthy mindfulness, the type of vibration you are going to emit, everyone can feel. That is called the good vibes. Wherever you develop this kind of not only the mindfulness, but the power of mindfulness, not only the power of mindfulness, but mindfulness as a factor of enlightenment, but even not just the factor of enlightenment, make it your second nature. Viveka Nissita. Nirodha Nissita means you see the disappearing of mindfulness in the happy mind. Because if you can't entertain it, you can never understand the reappearance of, in the pleasant way, in the glad way. So each time mindfulness is going, it's a chance for you to experiment it. And the Nirodha Nissita, not only you see the beginning of the mindfulness, not only you see the middle of the mindfulness, you are trying to experience the end of the mindfulness. Earlier it is a catastrophe. Earlier it is a destruction. It is a devastation. But now you develop such an attitude, even the disappearance, the Nirodha, is meditation. This is the called full catastrophic living. All the catastrophes are going to give you a very electric chances and impromptu chances, and you must understand how to improvise it. And that is the brief explanation regarding the mindfulness as a factor of enlightenment, and then as the Dhammajiva, the investigation of the mind. And I know each and every yogi is appreciating it very much. But it also has the beginning, the middle and the end. Sometimes you come from the worldly things to the transcendental things, you know how to start it. And sometimes come to the peak and so much of good insights are happening. But when it goes off, again you will be an idiot. Mind becomes so bewildered. Mind becomes so unruly. And then you dishearten. And lose your attention. You lose your faith. But the Buddha says, this inquiring mind or inquisitive mind, also sankhara is a formation. It has three, beginning, the middle and the end. So how to develop this inquiring mind, the Dhamma knowledge, with the making you as a second knowledge means you must equal, when it is appearing and disappearing, you must have the equal mind, the equanimous way, indifference way. That means you go through the beginning, the middle and the end of the Dhamma knowledge, the inquiring mind. And the third one is the energy. Virya Sambojjhanga. So sometimes you are very enthusiastic and full energetic, you can maintain the posture for about 1 hour or so. And you feel for another 15-20 minutes, I can maintain it like it's a really inflated balloon, like you feel it. But sometimes it becomes flat off. Whatever the thing you are going to do, whatever the way you are going to boost up your faith, or Dhammajiva, or mindfulness, it flat off. And then you get disheartened. That means you don't know that even the energy is a kind of a formation, it's a kind of fabrication, it's a kind of a arising and passing away phenomena. You only see the arising part and the developing part. You are never trained to see its cessation. You don't know how to make it your second nature. You don't know how to see the cessation of energy with the equipoised mind, indifferent mind. And that is the way you have to train when you go home. That's the thing you have to bring back home. Of course, when I come next year, please come, never mind. You can practice and you can reinforce it. When you go back, don't go disheartened. Make it a chance, because at the household life, enough discharging of your battery happens. So when it happens, it's a nature. And whenever the rapture arises, whenever the tranquility arises, and whenever the concentration arises, you have to understand this all of formation subject to change. It is within the capacity of ever changing, not permanent. So at the early part of meditation, definitely you are to encourage the development of mindfulness, the inquiring mind, the energy, the rapture, the tranquility, the concentration. But toward the end, that's a galvanizing effect or reinforcement. You are supposed to train yourself to see the cessation part of it. And even the equanimity. What you develop in the meditation center or in the meditation hall will not be enough strong to bring home. Or when you go there, you have to develop it according to the background. So when you develop, you see, whenever you are to see the disappearance of the mindfulness, still equipoised. Disappearance of the Dhamma knowledge, and your mind becomes so engrossed with the worldly things and the sensuous and sexual thing. If you develop the equipoised mind, and even if you flat off, battery go on and no energy, still if you can develop the equipoised, you will see the Buddha is with you, the Dhamma is with you. You are a meditator. And that is the point, you develop the real confidence. And the last thing, or the gist of it is the equanimity, the equipoised mind. That is what you bring or take wherever you go. All the other things are secondary. So even the mindfulness, the very mindfulness that we have kept at the beginning of this retreat is for mindfulness, that also you have to see under the light of this bhavana pahatabba, or abandonment of this particular kind of taints by the cultivation. It is never get fulfilled in the meditation hall. That is a must. It is, you have to understand. Meditation hall is just like an intensive care unit in the hospital. The very weak, very critical people, you have to put it there, but whenever he gain, you have to put back to the normal ward. There also you can't live all alone. You have to go home. When you go home, you feel like a recovering patient. And after a while, you have to return back to the normal food and the normal exercises. Like when you go home, you take this bhavana pahatabba, kind of detecting this kind of a taint which may develop if you do not tighten your belts even at home, and that is how you become a full-time meditator. From morning to the evening you can maintain it, and there you can see the fluxes, you can see influx, you can see the taints, you can see the cankers, you can see these are coming. It is coming as far as you are negligent. It is growing as far as you are negligent, but you can tackle it and you can see it as and when it is arising. It is like a hobby. One part and parcel will be dropped by just mere seeing. Part and parcel will be dropped by your restrainment of faculties. Part and parcel will be dropped by your proper usage of the 4 requisites. Part and parcel will be dropped by this forbearing these harsh words and the other harsh thing in the life, and getting rid of these evil friends and the unsuitable friends, and getting rid of these bad thoughts, and be ready to develop, take the opportunity as long as possible, as and when it arises. So this is the way, it is a lifelong research, lifelong exercise. So we must feel that we have certain amount of experience. With respect to that, we must make a complete thing so that you will be ever living. Each and every moment you are vigilant and diligent, and not try to expect frictionless thing from the external, but internally you develop. That is how the Buddha says, Sabbasava samvara pariyaya, that means abandoning of all the range of taints by these 7 methods. So I have taken 1 hour and 20 minutes. So I would like to sum up the talk by this remark. Thank you very much for participating in the retreat, taking the chance for listening, and don't lose it and keep it here. Bring back home and try your best and try to experience the total cessation of all the taints and enlive the dispensation of the Buddha and get the maximum out of this dispensation of the Buddha. Thank you very much for listening.
I have one question, Vanaya. Always when I face the hard situations and unkind situations, I always use metta meditation in mindfulness. Is it okay? I got good results for that. I always symbolize or imagine that person or persons or that situation. I wholeheartedly do metta. What's the idea about that? What's your idea about that?
For this kind of thing, Sila is one training, Samadhi is one training, Panya is one training, but the Metta is the Samadhi method. And still on top of that, Vipassana way is see things as they are. As and when it happens, don't find with any other escapism or Metta, just see it as it is. And as far as you have the technique of Metta in your bag, nothing to worry, but just see. And then one day you can understand, even without this kind of tactics of the Samatha method, directly you can do. When the confidence happens, you feel like doing it, just directly facing it. So the next item will be the administering of the 5 precepts. That means stepping back from the 10 precepts to 5 precepts, marking the formally marking the end of the retreat. So, do someone knows how to make a request, or should I just? Please repeat after me. Namo tassa. Yes, you may continue. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Saranagamanaṁ sampunnam. Pānāti pātā vīramani sikkhapadam samadhiyāmi. Adinna dāna vīramani sikkhapadam samadhiyāmi. Kāmesu miccācārā vīramani sikkhapadam samadhiyāmi. Musāvādā vīramani sikkhapadam samadhiyāmi. Surāmēraya majjapamā daṭṭhānā vīramani sikkhapadam samadhiyāmi. Tisaranena saddhiṃ pañcasīlaṃ dhammaṃ sādhukam surakkhitaṃ kattvā appamādena sampādē tabbam. Okay, now we'll go for the lunch arrangements, and by 12 o'clock Venerable will be ready with the CDs. Those who wish can go, and he can help by CDs or by giving the clip into your data pen or to the iPod, and that will be ready at 12 o'clock. Sukhi hontu. Sadhu sadhu anumodami. Sadhu anumodi tabbam. Khamami khamitabbam. Sukhi hontu sopati. Sukhi hontu sopatita. Abhivādana sīlissa niccang vaddhā pacāyino cattaro dhamma vaddanti āyuvanno sukham balang āyurārogya sampatti sagga sampatti mevaca ato nibbāna sampatti mināti samijjatu.